Hello, my name's Matt Corral. I'm the design director for a company called Ultraleap. We work with VR and hand tracking and mid-air haptics, but I've been a UX or digital designer for many years. And this is video 3 of 5 talking about the UX design process. It's a big subject, so it's broken into a few videos for you guys. So if you haven't seen the previous 2, I recommend you go back and watch them first so you get more out of this one. This is about stage 2 of 4 in the overall design process that we go through when we're designing an app or a digital product or something like that. And this phase I tend to call Ideate. Previously, we've done a phase called Defined. We've learned all about our users. We've done user research. We've identified a real problem that we can solve for them. And we've decided that that's what our project is going to be about. But so far, we haven't had any design. We haven't had any ideas yet. Now we're going to start talking about solutions to that problem. So now that the whole team has a clear understanding and there's a persona to kind of reference and we know who we're working for, we're going to come up with a really wide range of concepts for different ideas that could tackle the problem we're setting out to solve. Before whittling down our choices down to kind of the winning 1 or 2 or 3 that we're going to work on. It would be really unusual to just jump to one idea. In fact, it would be another red flag for me, and I do see that occasionally. It really pays off to have a dedicated phase, which is why I've put it that way, to creative exploration. Ideate is actually quite a short phase. It doesn't have to take very long, but you need to allow a chunk of time in your process to really ask that question, okay, how could we solve this person's problem? Not what is the product we want to make or what would be cool or what can we do with our tech. You get better answers, you get more valuable products if you start with that user's need and allow yourself a chunk of time to really just go out there a bit and say, well, hey, how could we solve this? You know, companies talk about innovation a lot and about wanting to be customer centric and you'll hear phrases like that. But it's amazing how many get these 2 stages wrong, define and ideate, because this is where that stuff happens. If you allow time for creative exploration, this is where those amazing new ideas and this innovation can actually come through. This is the only part of the process where that can really happen. Because from here on in, we're getting into details and we're worried about usability and money and feasibility and things. But for a short point in the process, this is the time where anything crazy can happen. And you might say, well, why come up with stupid, crazy ideas? Well, because if you're in a workshop and the guy next to you has come up with a crazy idea that can never happen, we're not going to do that. But that is what leads then on to, gives another person an idea. Or we look at the crazy idea and go, well, we can't do that. But if we scaled it back a bit, maybe we could do something a bit like it. You need to allow time for this to happen. Now this stuff typically happens in a workshop or 2. There is a skill to running these workshops well. So if you're interested more in this, look up something called design thinking, or look at one of my blogs or videos on it. This is a series of methods that you can use typically in workshops like this to get kind of maximum creative output out of a small group of people in a small chunk of time. So I'll go more into that in another video, but you'll run a design thinking workshop or something like that. And over the course of your career, you will learn how to do that really well. As a junior, you probably won't be running the workshops, but you'll be involved in them and you'll see how they're run and you'll see how quickly a team of half a dozen people can come up with a whole ton of ideas. Like, we could be talking hundreds, and that's good. It's very quick and efficient to come up with a lot of ideas and whittle down to the one that really matters. It's not expensive and it's not really high risk for the company. They can get through a lot of stuff in this short time. So this workshop might be half a dozen people. There'll be designers, there'll be a decision maker, the boss who can say that's what we're going to do. There'll be people there to advise on technical constraints and business constraints. If you have user researchers, they'll be there too. But in the space of what might just be a day or 2, those guys will be coming up with lots of ideas on post-its, but really, looking back at that persona and that user need again. So you allow a chunk of time for going wild and exploring a lot, And if you remember the double diamond diagram from the start, this is the bit where we go wide. Then you look at your persona and your problem you're going to solve and go, right, which of these ideas best solves that problem for that person? That's where the diamond whittles down. You might also look at them in terms of cost and feasibility and things like that. But it's important to know that you allow a little chunk of time for exploring and then a chunk of time for getting analytical and realistic and deciding what's best. That concept selection is the point at which we can really say, nah, that's crazy, or that's interesting, but we don't have time to do it, or whatever. This idea could be great for users. We have a good feeling about it. That's the one we're going to pursue with. There are lots of different ways of kind of gauging and assessing those concepts, and I won't go into it all here. But I just want to get across the value of this time and the value of that structure. Go wild and create a lot, then decide which are the most promising ideas. After that workshop, as a designer, you may also then spend a little bit of time bringing those ideas to life a bit more. You may be simply doing concept sketching. So if it's a digital product, you may sketch up a couple of the key screens in a super rough style. You may make a few notes and comments about it. And that's really to try and have that as the output of the workshop so that other people in the company can understand the idea beyond just what's written on a post-it note. And so that can be a good starting point for the next phase where you're going to detail that design. The other format you might do is you might draw a storyboard. Now, a storyboard is very similar. It's a very rough sketch, but this is about bringing the idea to life by sketching kind of comic book style panels that show, from a user's point of view, the steps they go through in using your product and therefore how you think it could solve their problem. It's really important that you sketch it from the user's point of view, because this again is another kind of artifact that will exist throughout the rest of the process, and it will be the reminder of what this original idea was and why we're going to do it and why we think it's promising. And you'll be amazed, like 3 months down the line, how much people can forget where we started from. Neither storyboards nor concept sketches need to be beautiful works of art. Sketching is, I think, a vital skill for a designer, but don't pressure yourself to be an absolute master at the start. It just has to be clear. So it's totally okay for these to be stickmen or whatever. Over the course of your career, you'll put time into that sketching and it will get better. But simply know that you've allowed time for this workshop and you've dedicated time to illustrating the winning idea or ideas in a way that everyone else can understand. So ideate is a very short phase. It could be a day or it could be a week or two. And if you've done define well, then it's very easy to come up with ideas because you empathize with that user. And it's very easy to decide which ones are the most promising because, again, you've got a good understanding of your customers. We're never designing for ourselves. We're designing for another person. So we need that define phase in order to empathize with them and know what matters to them, not just what we think is cool. You should now have got to a point where you have, let's say, one winning concept and it's sketched up as a storyboard or a concept sketch panel. And you are now ready to move to the next phase, refine, which is where we're going to take that idea and run with it and do all the detailed design work to bring it to life.